Hi, this is a little bit different kind of a video. This is not a reflection on the readings today. Um, this is from my my library of of books that I've used to build successful businesses in different endeavors in my life. And the one I want to talk about today is this one. I don't know if you can read it. It's called The Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill. In a nutshell, I'll just tell you that I never understood why things in my life have changed and led to better things until I read several books. But then when I got a hold of this one, I realized that there is a profound reality, and it's called habit. And there's a chapter in this book on habits. It's called The Law of Cosmic Habit Force. Now, I'm going to summarize for you because it's a whole chapter. But basically, whatever it is that allows us to create a habit, you've heard do it 28 days and it becomes a habit. But whatever that principle, that law, that natural reality is that allows that continued reinforcement of the same thing to become a habit, he calls in this book cosmic habit force. It's the force that creates a habit. And he makes a profound statement in this book, and I'm going to read it directly to you because it's just kind of amazing. And here it is. Now we come to the consideration of one of the most profound of all truths, the fact that most who attain the higher brackets of success seldom do so until they have undergone some tragedy or emergency which reach deeply into their souls and reduce them to that circumstance of life which some call failure. The reason for this strange phenomenon is readily recognized by those who understand the law of cosmic habit force, for it consists in the fact that these disasters and tragedies of life serve to break up the established habits of the man, habits which have led him eventually to the inevitable results of failure, and thus break the grip of cosmic habit force and allow him to formulate new and better habits. So basically what he's saying is when something bad happens, you have habits. Something bad in your life happens and you change your habits, and that leads to a new reality, often success. I gave a talk once to law students at Loyola Law School, and I went through my kind of history of how this manifested itself, and I'll very briefly share it with you because I think it illustrates the reality that we're talking about. So I always wanted to be in politics, but I knew that I was called to be a lawyer. So when I had the opportunity to go to work for a New Orleans city councilman, a friend of mine, I took it. So while I was in law school, I worked in politics. Now, while I was in politics, the way I read the paper was every day I went to the politics section. I went to the second part of the paper and read all of the stuff going on in the political world, and that's how I kept up with things. Well, what happened was a tragedy happened, a catastrophic failure. The councilman that I worked for wound up being investigated, and I wound up having to leave that political job and go into law. By that time, I had finished law school, got member of the bar, and became a lawyer. Well, as a lawyer, I had to change my habits, and I had to read the advance sheets and all the things from the courts and get a whole new set of habits. Well, what that led to was an opportunity to go to work at a corporation where I was a corporate lawyer and had a very successful time with it. And so a few years later, I'm an executive at this corporation. I'm the assistant secretary for the corporation. I'm associate general counsel, and all of a sudden, the company has a financial issue, and because of the financial issue, they had a layoff of 5 of their somewhat senior executives, and I was one of them. And so at that point, I did get another job. I worked for the FDIC, but a friend of mine offered me an opportunity to look at a business opportunity. And what happened was that failure of that job in law led to me to start reading business books. So I read, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, Success, the Glenn Bland Method. And if I'm recording at my house and you look behind me, you'll see all those books. There's probably hundreds of books that I've read on business and personal development through the years. The change to that happened because of losing the corporate job. And so now all of a sudden I'm investing myself in a different way to create habits, reading different kind of books. So then what happens is, after about 8 or 9 years, the Lord calls me to formation as a deacon. Well, now all of a sudden, it wasn't really a failure, but it was it was a change because of some things that happened, and I had to change what I read, and I started reading and focusing on the formation books for the diaconate, and everything went pretty well in that regard. And I was at the cathedral working for the bishop, and all of a sudden they transferred me, and I didn't quite understand why. And I met with a Catholic lawyer friend of mine. He says, "You don't understand, you don't get it, do you?" I said, "What?" He said, "Well, God took away your business so that he could put you in formation, and you could become a deacon where you're serving him. Now that you've been very faithful, he wants to give you your business back. And what you need to do is you need to reinvest in all that stuff that you had learned before in your business, and reinvest in that." So I started rereading a lot of these books, and sometimes reading them for a 5th and 6th and 7th time. And that has allowed me to then diversify myself so that as I become closer and closer to retirement, I had different sources of income. And in retirement, semi-retirement now, I have, between my wife and I, we have 6 sources of income. And I'm not bragging about it, but it gives us a pretty good lifestyle. And as I mentioned in a previous video, I'm going to be leaving the work at the church and going to work with that same Catholic friend of mine, opening an office for him. And it's going to give me an opportunity to even grow further in the development of our income. And it allowed me to do several things, and that is to continue to focus on my diaconate ministry, focus on my business interests, and then focus on my legal training so that I can help him with his law office in a different location. So that's a little bit about how this book, The Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill, which I highly recommend, talks about how habits control how we operate. There's a whole part in here about why the habits do that and how effective and important they are in our future. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different one. I'm excited about being able to do these kinds of videos. I do want to talk one last thing, tell you a little story. I'm a storyteller about habits. There's a story of a bear cub, and he's at the zoo. And he's in a 10 by 10 cage. And every morning they open up one side and put his food 10 feet away from him. He gets up, he goes 10 feet, eats his food, comes back and lays down. The next day they do the same thing, and every day it's 10 foot forward, 10 foot back, 10 foot forward, 10 foot back. Eventually, after a period of time, they remove the cage, but they're still putting the food 10 feet from him. And every morning he gets up and goes 10 feet forward, 10 feet back, 10 feet, eat the food, come back, 10 foot forward, eat the food. The bear cub is literally in a rut. Eventually, they decide to move the food further away, 10 more feet. Now the food's 20 feet away. What does the bear cub do? He gets up, he goes 10 feet, looks for the food, doesn't find it, goes back and lays down. The next day, 10 foot, looks for the food, doesn't find it, goes and lays down. After several days, he hadn't eaten, and it's getting serious. And they realized they had to terminate the study because what was happening was that bear had a bad habit. He was in a rut, and he needed to get out of the rut and change his habit and do something different. And all of us can benefit from changing our habits and doing something better. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a successful day. And you know God loves you, and I do too. Bye-bye.